Well, thanks for staying with us on the program this morning. We go straight into our next conversation lined up for discuss this morning. Our guest is already in the studio with me, Honorable Daniel Atayi. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much and good morning. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Now, it's quite an interesting time discussing Benue in perspective with the political realignments and the issues affecting lives and security of the Benue people in a year that has been plagued and marred with a lot of casualties, an increased number of internally displaced persons. It's almost one of those conversations that catches you blindsided when you talk about the need for politics in the conversation where humanitarian crises are still on the table. For you, how do you address these issues at a time like this?
Well, thank you for this very important question. The issue of Benue State, coupled with the whole ill governance that is going on there, is a question of leadership. And when I mean leadership in this sense, is effective leadership that has not been governing the state of Benue. Of course, you will bear a true witness with me that Benue was created since 1976 from the Benue Plateau State. And it's been 49 good years now. The level of insecurity, the level of underdevelopment, even political intrigues in terms of governance, we can't find them much for the people. The government tends to be the government of the elites and not actually government that is ready to serve the people equitably in the discharge of their responsibilities. Over time, we crave to elect leaders whom we presumed or assumed that they will be different. But all the time, we become complicit in the ill governance itself that we intend to change. Sadly, political intrigues supersedes the governance itself, because one of the areas and the essences of governance is the protection of lives and properties. And of course, you can see it in Benue. It is far-fetched. Even at the moment, even till now, it is far-fetched. And when you talk about developmental strides, infrastructurally wise, Benue cannot be compared to even states that were created later, like Nasarawa State, like Kogi State, and even like Enugu State. The development in terms of infrastructural amenities and social amenities, they are still below standard. Is it primary health care? At the local government levels, they are zero.
We'll come to that because you're the former chairman of councillors in Benue State.
Yes.
But we're talking about this ill governance, like you brilliantly captured it in your opening. It was quite interesting to hear a new side to the story because over time, successive past governors and their administrations had been blamed for it. But interestingly, it took a turn in the narrative when the FCT minister, following the unveiling of ADC as the coalition, took a targeted campaign at one of the longest serving senators in Nigeria who hails from Benue State. And he used him as a case study, saying that in his term as Senate President, he failed to translate or attract any developments to even his locality in Otukpo. Do you believe that this accusation of ill governance spans beyond just state governors and administrations and probably makes a case for the campaign as launched by the FCT minister?
The campaign by the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike is characterized under calumny, under political interest, because in government you have the executive arm, the legislative arm, and the judicial arm of government, with each saddled strictly for their responsibilities. One jurisdiction, we said there is separation of power, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you accuse the former Senate president, who is now championing the coalition party, the ADC, SP David Mark, he was never an executive in the state or at the national level. He was a legislator. Legislators have three functions in government. One, legislative business, that is lawmaking. Two, oversight. And three, representation.
Of their senatorial districts.
Of their senatorial
where he
district.
says those projects fail to manifest.
In representation, when a legislative bill is passed into law, the executive implement. It is not even the legislator that will implement. The executive oversees the implementation and the execution of constituency projects. And they decide under what we call procurement agencies to allocate contract for the implementation of the bill passed by a particular or motion or debate moved that has been assented by Mr. President.
So why do we find some legislators taking credit for certain constituency projects?
They take credit because if what you attracted from the executive arm or from the National Assembly being assented by Mr. President is executed conclusively, then you will say you attracted this and it was done. However, I think that is the angle that Mr. Nyesom Wike is coming from, that he never attracted much largesse in terms of infrastructural development. He used a case study of that road. This same road in Benue, in Otukpo precisely, I and many young people were agitated down to Fashola. We even, as Benue Rebirth Movement, went to Fashola, who also campaigned under the APC and became minister from 2015. Fashola said the contract was given first of all to Bulletin, then to Rockbridge, and he blamed the financial aspect of it on the National Assembly, that it is the Senate that did not approve the money for the president, I mean Buhari at the time, to sign. And that was why contracts were stopped. Road contracts all over the country were stopped at a time. Remember, Fashola himself flew helicopter to Otukpo before the 2019 campaign, that APC administration was going to execute that road, the Otukpo road to Enugu. He flew helicopter, cajoled us, and we believed, and most of us migrated to the APC on the quest or agitation that our roads are going to be fixed. Alas, Fashola himself failed, and Fashola is a cabinet member
of the then Buhari
administration. Which is the executive arm. So you cannot blame David Mark outrightly, since there is separation of power and the executive arm is supposed to be responsible. What happens to the state governors? At the time, Governor Tom was the governor of the state. And before Governor Tom, we had Governor Suswan. Though under Suswan, we recorded a lot of road infrastructural development state-wise. But the federal government roads are the problems in our state, the state of Benue. And we don't know whether the oversight function and the representative function of the legislators in Benue are kind of not meeting up at the national level. But we have not tested these persons in executive position where we could blame them if they failed. So the larger chunk of the blame is on the executive and not the legislators.
Now let's talk about the current executive and legislative relationship in Benue. A few months down the line, there were calls for the current House of Representatives to wade into the matter. There seems to be a broken relationship between Governor Hyacinth Alia and the State House of Assembly. Do you know if this relationship has been amended? And could you tell us what led to this seemingly perceived breakdown in relationship?
It's political impasse between Governor Alia and the Secretary to the State Government of the Federation,
Senator George Akume.
Senator George Akume.
But why so?
And who is adjudged to be one of the ruling class in Benue. You know, there is a difference between the ruling class and the governing class.
In Benue?
In politics generally.
Okay.
The ruling class decides who leads. And so they pass power to the governing classes. So the governing class lead, but also take directives.
Almost as though by proxy.
By proxy. Because in the ruling class, you have the traditional leaders, and then you have kingmakers, political kingmakers. Akume seems to fall under the kingmaker, like his own president, Tinubu. So, when you come to see the party politics itself, Akume controls the APC from that 2015 and to date. So if APC is governing, if successive governors have come under APC to govern and as passed or as produced by the ruling class, so you blame both the kingmaker and the ruling and the governing class. In this case, Governor Alia. I was one of those who wrote long article then, warning Governor Alia that if you assume power in Benue, you have to dissociate yourself from the political imbroglio in Benue State. Detach yourself from your godfathers. I said it, I made it clear. We know that you cannot jettison godfathers in politics, but giving out to the people also matters. That power was given to Alia. Akume actually dissociated himself. Alia also dissociated himself from Akume. What happened to governance now? Alia promised us one thing that we gave him ovation for, and that is local government financial autonomy. And we asked him at the time, how are you going to do this thing since successive governors failed? And he said, by political will. I have him on tape. He's not an enemy. I voted for him. He is my governor. We are just saying, where has the political will gone to? Akume aside, and all the ruling class aside, you are now the governor. Have you given the local government autonomy? And if you have given the local government autonomy, how come the local government chairmen, the 23 local government chairmen, are still answerable to the Bureau for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs?
Now, Honorable
how
Daniel,
come they are not protecting lives and properties in their jurisdiction?
Carry our viewers along.
Yes.
Are you saying that these promises were made pre-election? Were they campaign promises?
Yes.
Long before the president obtained the Supreme Court judgment granting local government?
Governor Alia assured us. I can give you the tape here, if you want to play it. We asked him when he said one of the ways that he's going to govern differently in Benue, that he was going to give us local government financial autonomy. And we say, how? He said, by political will. He repeated it twice. This is where I have problem with politicians and leaders. When you promise and the people take you into account and give you, vested their trust in you, why can't you fulfill that simple promise? The president came and even went to the pinnacle of our judicial system, which is the apex court, the Supreme Court, and gave the 774 local governments in Nigeria the financial autonomy. Today, the 36 governors, or maybe 20-something governors, they went to court again against the local government autonomy. Mr. President said, don't steal from the local government. Here are governors that have said, we must steal from the local government. And so the local government, which is the government closer to the people, is disenfranchised, is underdeveloped, is in a state of comatose. There is nothing like healthcare at the local government. There is nothing like rural electrification at the local government. There is nothing like security to lives and properties at the local government. Chairmen are just dummies. Let me describe them: dummies, puppet, sitting down waiting for bureau for local government and chieftaincy affairs to tell them, bring this money. 400 million, 500 million naira going to the local government coffers every month. And what is given to them? That we have investigative analysis and information, not more than 10 to 15 million or 20 million pay salary, and the rest is gone, disappear to thin air. And this is a government at the state level that takes up to 20 billion naira allocation monthly. I am not talking about the 3.1 billion naira for security vote. I'm talking about federal allocation. This month it has entered, and so they will still take 500 million, 400 million from the 23 local government areas and give them peanut, 10 million, 15 million. And this is what the ADC wants to change. That is why the people are moving to the coalition party.
Now, Honorable Atayi, let's not fast track the conversation. You've raised quite a very thought-evoking point here. The issue of financial autonomy for local government areas.
Yes.
Now, Norgay has quite interestingly issued a statement threatening to embark on strike.
Yes, I will support that strike.
It's been 1 year since the Supreme Court gave that judgment. Up until now, states, not just Benue, are still practicing joint accounts.
Joint account.
There seems to be no hope for financial autonomy. We heard that it's the bureaucratic process of opening joint accounts with the CBN.
There is no bureaucracy that infringes on the rights of the people at the local level. Governments are tiers. We have the federal tier, we have the state tier, and we have the local government tier. And that is why we have federal lawmakers, we have state lawmakers, and we have local government councillors. They are lawmakers. So we have tiers. These three tiers are completely independent. And they should be independent under power separation from the executive. So why would the executive always usurp the power even of the judiciary? They usurp the power of the local government, they usurp the power of the lawmakers, they also usurp the power of the judiciary. And this brings me to the constitutional reform of the National Assembly. Because if the constitution is not reformed, I have said it on this station, I've said it on channels, I've said it on AIT, I've said it on Eagles FM, I've said it on Joy FM, I've said it several platforms, that we might be drifting into anarchy if this constitution remain the constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because we see it as a military fiat. It is a military compass and not democratic compass, and therefore it must be reviewed and reformed. If not, why will a sitting governor, after collecting 20 billion, I'm not talking about millions, will still collect the chicory 400 million, 500 million from local government coffers to do what? And where are those developmental strides promised during campaign, or you are taking this money for? So The local government is never an appendage of the state government, though it is within the jurisdiction, but it must govern its jurisdiction at the local level. Tell me the killings in Benue cannot be stopped by local government chairman. If I'm a local government chairman, can you just come to my local government and kill people and go scot-free? If I have the money, if I am the chief security officer of my local government, the police will do their work. The NSCDC will do their work. But the local vigilante will do their work because I will fund them. But in this case, no funding is going to them.
But despite the security votes that is allocated to Benue, quite interestingly, during the town hall where President Bola Tinubu paid his condolence to the people of Benue, the governor could be heard saying that he similarly is not the chief security officer because the police don't even take instruction from him. How do we achieve security, much like you're saying, that starts from the third tier up?
Well, even if the state police commissioner doesn't take instruction from you, in Benue we used to have what we call
Operation Zinda?
No, local vigilante. An autonomous government instituted what we call livestock guard, because most of the killings were coming from marauding herdsmen. And the marauding herdsmen that will go and bring their alien brothers either through our borders and infiltrate the land to kill people. They kill mercilessly and they brutally destroy properties, even farmland. They trespass at will. So if you are a state governor and the police not responding to you, we have able-bodied youth that you have the law already. There is this
empowering vigilante.
Yeah, there is a vigilante. What do they call it? Civil guard, civil protection guard, like you have the Amatekun in the southwest. We have one in Benue. But what are they doing? They are now sent to gates of big men to guard those gates, and then they are sent to companies and be moving around to safeguard the big men.
There's also a conversation on superior firearm by these marauding invaders.
Superior firearms. That is why we are calling that the federal government, that if you are reviewing the Constitution, look at the American Constitution. When this type of war was going on between America and the British colonial masters or colonialists, the Americans, they look at it. People can just come, kill us and go away. We don't have arm. What did they do? They reviewed their constitution and they gave states the power to bear arm. They went on, they gave individuals the right to bear arm for self-defense. They put in their constitution that self-defense is not a crime. If somebody want to kill you, how would you just sit down like babies were sleeping with their mothers in Yelwata, in Apagatu, in Entekpa, in Goma local government, and you just come, pour petrol, massacre them. You will even start pregnant women, remove babies from their womb. So people have right to self-defense, and therefore the federal government must review the constitution so that state entities would take charge of their securities.
But then Atayi, have you seen that controversial court case where someone defending himself in self-defense ended up being at the wrong end of the law?
Yes, and that is what we call bureaucratic bottleneck by the superior oligarchs. Let me tell you, our democracy in Nigeria, if the constitution is not reviewed, we have plutocracy, we have oligarchy, we have theocracy. You can see some religious agitation. They want to clone some political parties, like what we see in the APC. They say Muslim ticket. They have turned the political party into theocratic party. So it's religious inclination and affiliation. Therefore, the ideology that will be bettered is the Sharia law, is the law governing Islam. And I mince no words saying it, because my people are being killed by these ideologists. And because of that, that government of Tinubu was bettered under Muslim. Remember, Nigeria is a heterogeneous country with more than 250 ethnic groups and more than 3 or 4 religious groups. How can you now say that your own religion is supreme than the others, when we have religious freedom, we have rights to association, we have rights to meet, and then we have decisions under our constitutional rights.
In closing, because we have 2 minutes to go.
And nothing like that.
All these rights are well enshrined in our constitution, but in closing, in 2 minutes, you seem to be saying that the ADC is the alternative. Quite interestingly, there have been reactions to a certain Mr. Peter Obi, who has also leaned towards the ADC, but has not resigned from the LP on his freedom of association and movement. Just in 2 minutes, let's get your thoughts.
I will advise Peter Obi, if he's watching me, to leave the Labour Party, because the current administration of APC have infiltrated so many political parties to bring them down. And I think the needless of the president doing that. If the president want to win his second term, it is simple. Review the constitution, create state, and douse down agitation. Separate power. You talked about devolution of power. You are in now. Don't waste time, because second term might not be guaranteed. Create independent candidacy in the law. If you want to divide the power, the vote of both APC, PDP, and ADC, introduce independent candidacy. Individuals who come out to run for their elections. And if you want to get maximum vote, I'm just giving him an template. An expo and a template. So let state also control their resources. Let there be what? State resource control.
All right.
You understand? Let there be state police also. These are the things that the ADC is focusing in. And I believe that massively, if you like, have 36 governors. They are just 36 votes. The ADC will come with millions of people, cast their vote, and they will topple you. What we are seeing now is called party revolution.
Thank you very much, Honorable Atayi. Time, I'm afraid, is not our friends. Quite strong points you've raised this morning. We appreciate you for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me.